Deep in the suffocating jungles near the Yucatan Peninsula, the expedition stumbled upon a forgotten temple smothered by vines and centuries of silence. What was supposed to be a casual archaeological vlog turned into a descent into a myth that should have stayed buried. The structure looked benign at first glance, just another crumbling pyramid swallowed by time, but its interior was something else entirely. The walls were inked in a faded red pigment, forming grotesque mosaics of jaguars feasting on humans and kings, with serpent heads dancing amidst fire. As the group ventured deeper, it became clear the temple was not merely one structure, but layers upon layers of previous temples, stacked like tombstones beneath the earth. With each level down, the air thickened, and the darkness grew heavier, until torches barely flickered in the stagnant pitch. In one of the deepest chambers, behind a crumbling altar shaped like a corn god with a jaguar's mouth, they found the funerary mask of a forgotten Snake Kingdom ruler. The mask was cold, unnervingly perfect, and seemed to radiate a hum, not quite sound, but pressure in the ears like the static before a storm. They took turns holding it, laughing nervously, but when one of them dropped it, the mask didn't shatter, it screamed, not aloud, but in their minds a piercing shriek that silenced the jungle around them. That night in the hammock camp, the jungle came alive with snarls and low howls that circled them until dawn. The guide insisted it was only monkeys, but his hands trembled when he said it. The next day they explored the deserted city, now reduced to half-swallowed ruins, but once home to 100,000 souls. Artworks carved into stone told tales of rituals involving fire, stars, and human hearts. They wandered into a ball court where the losing captain was said to have been decapitated in honor of the gods. There were still stains on the stone, darker than moss, and warm to the touch. But it was the cave they found on day 3 that truly split reality. It was known locally as the Mouth of the Earth Monster. Inside, it reeked of burnt copper and damp stone. The walls sweated, and the temperature rose violently as they descended. Stalactites jutted like teeth, and bats spiraled in madness when their torches sparked. At the far end, behind layers of collapsed rubble, they discovered sealed-off tunnels where the Mayans believed life and death met at the Tree of Life. They pushed deeper, gasping as the oxygen thinned, until the passage opened into a chamber blackened with soot. Around them were incense pots still crusted with dried resin and old bones piled deliberately in rings. Then came the whispering, not echoes, not wind, but guttural breaths that formed words in languages none of them spoke. One of them broke into screams and bolted upward. The others followed, scrambling over rocks slick with moisture and something else that stuck to their boots. They surfaced barely breathing, but the temple would not let go. In their final stop, high above the jungle, they visited the temple of Kukulkan, the feathered serpent. They clapped and heard the strange chirp echo as promised, a trick of sound, or perhaps not. But something else echoed too, something that wasn't supposed to reply. When they flew a drone over the top chamber, the feed glitched and returned a single frozen frame of a figure standing perfectly still, arms extended, eyes hollow. There were no footprints. There had been no one else up there. Days later, footage from the trip began corrupting. The screams weren't theirs. Shadows moved in daylight shots. One frame showed the giant spider from the cave, but this time with a mask resting between its legs. They tried to forget. One disappeared, then another. No one believes jungle myths until they follow you home. Channel call to action. If ancient curses and the shadows of forgotten gods haunt your mind like they haunted theirs, subscribe to Odred Taku for more terrifying.